Hi there, and welcome to Business in the Age of Aquarius, Passion, Purpose, and Magic in Your Soul's Work virtual retreat, where we explore the rise of ideals, consciousness, and humanity in entrepreneurship. I'm your host for this event, owner of Sovereign Spirit, Theresa Pridemore, and I can't wait to introduce you to today's speaker, Whitney Freya. Hi, Whitney.
Hi, Theresa. I am so excited for this conversation. Oh my gosh.
Oh, me too. I can't wait. I can't wait. I love talking art, and I just think what you do is so fun. So I'm really stoked to share. So Whitney is passionate about awakening your creative spirit so that you can thrive in the art that is your life. She has guided thousands into her sacred and personal painting practice and leads her certification program to empower creatives worldwide to earn a living sharing their hearts with their world. She is the author of 4 books on personal creativity. Her latest is 30 Days to Unstoppable, Be the Dream Made Visible. And you can learn more about her at whitneyfreya.com. So our topic is how to be unstoppable in the age of Aquarius. Very fun. So obviously, like a big part of what you do is working with people on art, creativity. So why is developing a creative practice so important right now?
Um, I love the simplicity laser beam energy of that question, because ultimately that's what I want people to do, is to understand that having a creative outlet, having a creative practice is vital to our overall wellness, as well as our ability to really thrive and experience life from a place that is authentic and self-expressed and self-fulfilled. Because ultimately, we're here to create. We're here to remember, like, oh yeah, my happiness and fulfillment and, like, sense of purpose is not going to be sourced from outside of myself. It's going to be sourced from within.
Yeah.
And this is the time we're being given permission on all levels, right? To, like, break the rules, make your own rules, live life your way. And, especially as women and as women entrepreneurs, like never before have we had such a blank palette
Mm-hmm.
and so many tools and ways to reach people at our disposal. So when we nurture that creativity, and art making for me, in my experience, has just gone laser beam to where people are the most afraid.
Mm.
It's about overcoming fear. It's about getting to know how you operate at those edges, at those threshold moments where you're being called, maybe into a bigger arena, or to speak even more authentically
Mm-hmm.
to your audience. And when we can develop a relationship to fear, really unpacking it and understanding it, that is available through the creative practice that I share, all of
Mm-hmm.
that becomes easier. It flows more. It doesn't mean you never get fearful,
Mm-hmm.
speaking from experience, but it means you've got tools available and you understand what's going on, instead of kind of being, pushed around by those energies. You're able to create with them.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, from my experience, just thinking about the process of like painting, for instance, there is a powerful experience of exploring your edge and working through like uncertainty and you don't really you have an idea, but you don't really know like if it's going to come out the way you expect. So you have to go into this trust in the process, and that like such a big part of entrepreneurship. I imagine that, the work you do really helps people exercise that muscle of building a trust in their own process.
Absolutely. So for everyone listening right now, just take a moment. And if I was to offer you, like, if my arms could reach out through the screen, right, and hand you a blank canvas and a palette of paint and a paintbrush, what would you think? What would you feel? If there is a fear there,
Mm.
go underneath the fear. What are you afraid of? And it's okay. Like, the it's like the master level is where we can look at our fear and be like, oh, I'm afraid of rejection. I'm afraid of doing it wrong. I'm afraid of not being good enough.
Mhm, mhm,
I don't want to be the one messing it up.
mhm,
So what, just voice, like, give a sentence, a statement to your fear.
mhm,
What was it? If I handed you a blank canvas right now,
mhm,
what's the nature of the fear? And understand that that same fear is dancing with you in other arenas, other canvases in your life,
mhm,
in your
mhm,
business. that same fear is going to be at a threshold and either hold you back if you're not understanding the real nature of that fear, which I believe is to be a guide, is to make sure, like a mother at the doorway before the child leaves for school, like, do you have your jacket? Do you have your hat? Do you have your lunch? Right? It's not to be like, be very, very afraid if you forgot your lunch, right? It's just like, oh yeah, I got to go get my lunch. Right? So without understanding, without creating spaces within which we can really kind of get to know our fears, they end up kind of steering the ship when we're not even aware of it. And, you know, being an entrepreneur, a man or a woman, is, I think, like, we chose a vein of work, a palette, you know, a color on the palette that would ensure that we do the inner work. Because your business can only grow as you grow personally.
Yeah, totally.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Way easier to learn these lessons at the canvas than real life.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It is amazing, like, how powerful that creative process is. And it is sometimes challenging for us to make space for it. Maybe for some of the reasons you're describing, because we're afraid we're gonna, like you said, we're gonna mess it up, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. One of the things I love, so when you said that, that is probably the biggest thing I hear from people that haven't painted like since they were kids, right? And they have a feeling that they'd like to, right? But I don't even know where I would start. I'm going to show you guys because I just have it right here under me. I just did a open studio with my community. Like, this is where you start. This is actually a canvas I've been using as a palette. Like, this paint right here is still wet. So this is how I start every painting. Just pushing color around on the canvas, not painting anything. And what I've found is the more you play in that underlayer, once you do get the inspiration, the rest flows way easier. This is true for life and business. Like, if you're having fun in your business, and I can make anything a chore or a joy. I've experimented on this extensively in my last 27 years as an entrepreneur. And when I make it fun, I get way better results.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah. I totally agree. I feel like, you know, I work with people in areas of like growing their programs, doing marketing, and there, you know, there's always like a lot of stuff we have to do to get somewhere with all of that, to get an audience, to share a message. And it is perspective, you know, like, I do believe in coming at things with a spirit of wanting ease and like following ease, but you do kind of have to do a little bit of inner work to choose to have fun doing things and find your fun, find the play inside of it so that it isn't a burden. It's often a perspective.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, weeding the garden can either be this chore, this like, I gotta go weed the garden, or it can be sacred time with Mother Earth. It can be you ground. It can be where you soak up those nutrients, the minerals that you get from being outside. So anything can, you know, come from that shadow or light. And that's really important as an entrepreneur, because you're like, you are your brand. And then the energy that's coming through your words and the imagery, the marketing, the emails, the lives, the stories, all the things is what is either attractive or not. And people don't remember exact words, but there's a feeling that's conveyed. Yeah. And so if you're there like, I gotta do this, like, we've all done it. It's not like, you know, never totally happen. But have you validated like your inner child, that energy of play, how incredibly creative and empowering that is, and how magnetizing that is? Totally. So, you know, it's really important to make sure that you're, you know, filling yourself up, sharing with others from your overflow. And the painting practice is one of the easiest ways that I, even though my business is bringing people to, you know, this practice, I still use it because I'm still writing the email sequences and, you know, all the things. So, so making sure you're nurturing that creative, playful, fun energy, and getting to know yourself and where your edges are and how to dance with them rather than resist them or try and avoid
Mhm. Well, you're a great model for this. You're incredibly generative. I looked at your website. You have so many programs and offerings and your books. Like you just obviously really enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah, I do. And you know, when you source, and it could be anything, you know, I mean, you could be selling widgets and find a higher purpose for that,
Mhm,
right?
mhm,
But when I tap into that bigger picture, you
mhm,
know, when I can see how every element of life on this planet needs, wants, is desperately crying out to be recreated,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
New ways of doing things. Yes, please. And we have so many solutions, so many more solutions than we have problems. The
mhm,
creative mind only sees solutions. The
mhm,
logical linear mind, which is the way most of us were raised, focuses on the fear and the scarcity and what we don't have. Um,
mhm,
and again, it's all fine,
mhm,
okay, but we get to choose now. We have things like this magical event to help us create new awareness. And
mhm,
with that comes freedom and
mhm.
also responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally. And it is easier to take that responsibility on when you are coming at it from a place of joy and, working through those inner limitations so that you can more easily like flow with things too. I found that that's greatly beneficial for me in creative practice. Getting that flow of creating something, you come out the other side feeling more energized for everything else.
Yeah. And the age of Aquarius is about the collective, right? It's
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
working in community.
Yeah.
And I'm remembering, it's funny, I love when stories come to mind, right? I'm like, oh, really? You want me to share that? Okay. So when I lived in Nashville, I facilitated a painting project at a woman who was in the music business. She was an executive and she was having like a 60th birthday party or something.
Mhm.
And we painted this big tree, and there were lots of, who's who Nashville music industry. And not everybody painted on the painting, but afterwards, the people that worked with this friend of mine told me, they're like, wow, that was unusually like relaxed and open, and people that normally are just very much like leading with their ego were way more open and helpful. The whole vibe of the party was different. I'm like, that's
Mhm.
because they were in their right brain, or more people were in that creative mode. The
Mhm.
creative mindset, the creative awareness sees
Mhm.
connections everywhere,
Yeah.
sees you in your client, right?
Mhm.
In the people
Mhm.
around you. Whereas the linear logical mind is physiologically programmed to see you as an individual
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
protective. And
Mhm.
so the energy of that changed just because of having the creative activity going in the background. So it
Mhm.
can do that for you and your organization, your business as well, just by nurturing that for yourself. Um,
Mhm.
it's powerful and it's subtle,
Mhm.
but it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, totally. That's a great story. I love it. I love that.
Mhm.
Um, well, I feel like we've kind of covered a little bit of this or a lot of this, I don't know, but you talk about the alchemy of art. So can you explain what the alchemy of art is?
Absolutely. So alchemy is when you take disparate elements and bring them together to make something totally new,
Mhm.
right? And most of the people I work with, when they start creating, painting with me, they
Mhm.
have not painted since childhood or for decades, and they
Mhm.
are, um, they're dancing with, and I used to be like this. I was a total wannabe artist, literally until I opened my art center in 1996. So it's like they see people's paintings, or they see things online, or they see something hanging somewhere, and it's like, oh, I'd love to be able to do something like that, but I can't. I'm not
Mhm.
creative. I can't even draw a straight line. Blah, 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 blah.
Mhm.
Because you have that belief, like that is awesome.
Mhm.
Because when you bring this painting practice to that experience that you've had up until now, those are disparate experiences. You
Mhm.
haven't been painting. You haven't even ever painted. When I opened my art center, even I had never painted on a canvas since I was like 9.
Mhm.
So when those things come together, they create something totally new,
Mhm.
which I would
Mhm.
say that the fear that most people feel when I suggest that I can reach through the computer screen and hand you a blank canvas, that fear is proportionate to the amount of transformation that's available to you on the other side.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so that alchemy, like if you want things to change, if you're looking for things to change, if you're curious, like, to a certain extent as an entrepreneur, I'm always like, okay, I know like coasting isn't really an option. It's not on the program. So I'll start getting curious. Like, I wonder what's coming next, right? Opening up to that rather than, constricting or creating a fertile ground creatively for something new to come in. Distracting your normal patterns of thought with a creative practice are going to be highly productive.
That's awesome. I love it.
Kind of a fun paradox there.
Yeah, yeah, totally. It's interesting you're talking about like coming at art or painting as feeling like a total beginner, right? And I took this amazing class, and I noticed it was a great environment set up to make everyone feel free to make. Making is like all we're here to do is make, and making is so essential to who we are as people. And it was amazing. The people that didn't consider themselves artists made the most interesting work. They were free of, like, I went to art school, so I would look at their work and I'd go, man, I have so many stories in my head about what I'm allowed to do, and they don't have that. So they have this capacity to make really interesting things that I wouldn't even think to make. So it just goes to show that you can actually do that. And then there's this underlying, like, there's so much you can learn from creativity that teaches you life lessons. Like, you can process every experience as a life lesson, as a story to transform like how you engage with life too.
Absolutely. And there's the symbolic nature of this. So one of the things that I love to introduce to people, and clearly as part of the creative practice, but also like in my latest book, 30 Days to Unstoppable, that is more around a meditation process, but it uses a symbol as a yantra. So symbols, which everything's a symbol, right? I mean, a paperclip could be a symbol, the paintbrush is a symbol, a bear is a symbol, a snake, an eye, all these things are symbols. But they are another language that our unconscious mind, this creative right brain, this intuitive side of you responds to, right? Your logical linear mind reads and numbers and speaks, and that's a learned language. The symbols are like little activations, and they hold this like multifaceted source of information that can meet you right where you are, and can serve to create a bridge to distract your go to-do list monkey mind, which as an entrepreneur, my gosh, is constant, right? The symbols can serve to help bridge that busy mind to the no thinking mind by distracting that linear way of thinking. So like in 30 Days to Unstoppable, we use the sacred geometry that is Metatron's cube. And sacred geometry was given to me for this book because it can create unity, which allows that left brain, logical, rational part of ourselves to relax, because until that logical mind perceives unity, it will resist all change. And sacred geometry, at the tip of the iceberg, are symbols that are created through mathematical equations, right? Like if you're really going to create sacred geometry, there's a compass involved, and there's some very exact points and lines involved, and it's reflected in nature. So scientists look at sacred geometry and they're like, yeah, that's the pattern that a meandering river, or the branches coming off a tree, or those succulents, the spirals, those all grow according to a predictable design that is illustrated in sacred geometry. And us mystics, creatives, love sacred geometry. They've been carved into temple walls on all the continents thousands of years ago. So there's this kind of seed, like this divine blueprint energy that is speaking to the order and the science, as well as the subtle, intuitive, magical, unseen realms. And so by using that image and connecting it to this meditation process, again, we're moving into parts of our mind and our awareness that don't get triggered when you're going through your daily to-do list and juggling all the things that I know you all are juggling, because I'm juggling them too, right?
Yeah.
So how to stay present and not get overwhelmed, how to be able to really receive in the moment what would serve the highest and greatest good of your client, which ultimately is going to help you be more abundant in that money energy, which is going to make you more sustainable and also able to be more generous. So it's all about, imagine like blowing up a balloon, like getting a balloon, that has yet to be blown up, or a teeny tiny one. It's not utilizing its potential, right? You can expand that dramatically and it changes completely. It's the same, it's still the balloon, but very different states. So we want to expand into more of the tools we have in our tool belt. And that's what I'm doing. And I love the results of this to be very practical. Like pretty pictures are great, but really it's about the quality of your life. And feeling that energy and anticipation, and not getting bogged down in the stress and the worry and the overwhelm. Because I mean, I don't know about you all, but I'm managing that daily. Like it's a daily thing.
Yeah.
Like, what can I do right now?
Just
part of the meditation in that book. It's so powerful. There's so many things. It's all about life is meant to be lived as art. It's not what we were taught in school or talked about around the dinner table. So we're remembering it now.
Yeah. It's funny. I always think, a lot of the work of becoming an adult is learning how to be a kid again. in certain areas of our life, for sure, and like you talked about, even when we're doing the work we have to do, the things that, fill up our list of to-dos, we need to try to reconnect with our inner child as much as possible.
Absolutely.
I like what you say about, I don't remember your exact words, but you were saying something about how unity like taps us into our power. Like we have to go into unity first. I think that's really interesting.
Right. So I read that in a book called Quantum Creativity by Amit Goswami. I love reading about quantum physics and all of that. And in that he said, whether he said logical mind, rational mind, left brain will resist all change until it perceives unity.
That's it.
Right? Because it's fear-based and it's there to protect you. But if it can understand that, stretching into this new experience, this new way of being or expressing yourself or doing things in your life can also help attract more of what you desire, what you need, then it can soften. If it can perceive that there is a golden thread there, right? Which is kind of like, imagine that eagle's eye view, like rising up above the details, rising up above the like, oh, I'm not good at that, or I'm not good at that, or whatever, like rising up, and all those little things become invisible. What is the big picture? That's what that right hemisphere, intuitive, creative mind, that's what it's meant to hold. We've all heard that quote that says something to the effect that the mind makes a terrible master, but a wonderful servant. Right. And so what's actually meant to happen is the heart is meant to lead. Right. When you perceive something, something gets you excited. Turns you on. Like it could be a new business idea that you have and it gets you really excited. But we've been taught, just even since we were little, is to take the new idea and go to the rational, logical mind or a parent or something and ask, can I do this? And what that level of consciousness is going to do is it's going to say, have you done this before? Is there anything in our past that could lead us to know, like we know that this is safe, that it's going to work? And if you haven't experienced it in your past, this is a new thing that's lighting you up, then all your logical, rational mind is going to do is tell you no. or it's going to get crafty. And this is what procrastination is like. Oh, but you got to do this first and that first. And all of a sudden you find yourself like cleaning out under your bed or something. There's your left brain trying to keep you safe. So, again, understanding, getting to know how we think, how we create, where we get stuck. That is a beautiful journey, super fun, can be super fun, and can lead to liberation in lots of different parts of your life, which can absolutely lead to business growth and all the.
Yeah, absolutely. I love all that. That's incredible. That's awesome. Well, you actually spoke to this before, but I would be interested in like how does working creatively align us more with the energy of the age of Aquarius?
Right. So my understanding, so the age of Aquarius, so it's about the collective, it's an air element, right? So it's about ideas and coming out of an earth-based sign, where things, it's like, show me the money, show me the numbers, what's the bottom line. Aquarius and the air element are about ideas and inspiration and intuition, the subtle realms. You can't see the wind, right? But you can see the effects of the wind. So Aquarius is opening us up to a much greater field of possibility, the spaciousness, right? And allowing us to perceive these ideas and understand how real your dreams and visions can be. Right? So for me, becoming unstoppable is recognizing that when you receive an idea, that's actually what's happening. It's being given to you. Kind of like Liz Gilbert talks about in Big Magic, right? She says ideas are always circling, looking for hosts. So ideas are energy. Everything exists as energy before matter. Everything. Just think about, like, someone was like, why don't we put it in a plastic tube with a lid? Like, everything exists as energy before matter.
Yeah.
So that means we can create in that energetic realm. We can align with and create resonance with a thriving business, with a book that will reach millions, whatever it is, but it's about resonance, right? So tending to your energy, which is very much an unseen aspect. You think of your breath, you can't live without it, but where is your breath? It's everywhere.
Yeah.
So Aquarius is really giving us, like the net wider, and encouraging us to ask ourselves, how does this serve me, and how is serving me also going to serve the highest and greatest good of all?
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
As a woman entrepreneur, how can my success inspire others? How can my success provide an abundance from which I can offer scholarships or whatever. So Aquarius is really opening up, loosening the boundaries. It's not as physical, so it's a lot more fluid. And it's, I'm super excited. Think about the winds of change.
Yeah, totally. When you're talking about like the possibilities that are available to us and the quantum field and how everything is energy before it's matter. And I've witnessed a lot of things personally. I see a lot of the Mandela effect all the time, happens around me all the time. And like for instance, I've gone on a walk with a friend and an apple appeared in her pocket. Just like matter can be created. And the other thing that I see all the time is that everything can be infinitely reorganized to our perfect outcome for each of us. Everyone can have the things that they want ultimately. And I feel like what's going on in the higher realms of humanity right now, part of the age of Aquarius, is stepping into a new idea of what the earth can be and how it can provide for us and how we can have this dance with life. And more of us are waking up to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of my most favorite meditations when I go to the canvas, which I use the canvas as meditation. Like, so much easier for me. I don't know about you all, but to go to the canvas and just start painting with colors, spirals, drips, whatever, to distract my monkey mind and bring myself present. So I use the creative process just like I would use meditation, which I do as well. But the painting, especially when I'm busy, the painting gets me to that present moment quicker, sooner, faster. When we're in that present moment, right? The present doesn't have your past in it. And it doesn't have any future in it. It's in those present moments that the aha happens.
Yeah.
Right. Even they found that when, like, right before a stroke of insight, which is very noticeable on like a EEG or whatever they're called, the lines on the screen. So right before there's a stroke of insight, there's a spike in gamma brain waves, and gamma brain waves are different because the entire neocortex lights up instead of just one part of the brain. It's like this simultaneous whoosh. And they found that if you can get in your right brain, you have an easier way to achieve that gamma brainwave state. So it's Dr. Herbert Benson, the breakout principle. If you want the breakthrough, you do the homework, right? I mean, you got to know the things. And then you sever all previous thought processes to get out of the left brain. That's exactly what he writes in the book, to get your aha.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Right? So like, we can do this. I mean, Thomas Edison used to hold metal weights in his hand and lie down to fall asleep, because I think he was a workaholic. He was up all the time. And he would wait. The reason he did that is because right as he fell asleep, his hands would loosen and drop the weights, wake him up. And he was looking for the aha in that moment between waking and sleeping.
Oh, that's cool.
He harnessed that.
Yeah.
You know, we can do that with paint.
Absolutely. I think there's something powerful too about taking that meditative state into an interaction with matter, and being a creator and a kind of a magician. You know, you prove to yourself that you can create, you know, something concrete, and there's some kind of power in that, I feel.
Absolutely. I mean, just for those of you right now, you could take anything that we've talked about, but just air, the age of Aquarius, the water bearer, like go to the canvas or a piece of paper, the backside of something you're throwing out, you know, grab a pen or a pencil, or if you have colors or anything you have, and just take a moment and think to yourself, if I had to paint, I had to draw air or the water bearer or Aquarius, or for this year, 2023, what I want, how would I create that symbolically? Not to show anyone or post or anything like that, just to get your mind like, what? Wrong as a symbol? Like, what are you talking about? Like, yeah, just air. Okay, so like spirally air open. It's just, again, it's blowing up the balloon. It's expanding what you have access to. And that's very Aquarian.
Yeah.
Right? The flow and the expansiveness and the interconnectivity. We don't exist as an island. You don't have to wear the weight of the world on your shoulders and figure everything out. You can open yourself up to receive intuitively your next steps. And that's when it becomes like a magic carpet ride, right?
I love that. It's awesome. Yeah, totally. Well, you have an incredible story. So what is your story of weaving art into your life and work?
Well, I mean, you know, I freaked my friends out when I went back for my 20th high school reunion, just as an example. Like, I hadn't seen most people since high school. And when I told them that I, you know, taught art online and I just written this book called The Artist Within, they're like, say what? Like the most vocal wannabe artist ever. And I graduated from the University of Michigan with a Bachelor of General Studies, and left the day after graduation to sell books door to door, which I did for 4 summers. It was like a summer program, and I recruited college students and traveled all fall and recruited college students in the winter. And then we went and sold books door to door in the summer. Nothing I would want to ever do again, but very transformative. Faced lots of fears, got to know myself. But the whole time I was like, okay, I know I'm supposed to sell books. I knew this intuitively until I come up with the idea.
Mm.
And I literally came up with ideas. I felt like I'd been like cursed at birth by the wicked witch that said she's was and them, you know, like I felt bombarded with ideas constantly. And so literally after the third summer selling books, and I was like, oh, please, I don't want to do this again. I was reading a book called Zen and the Art of Making a Living.
Mm-hmm.
And even when I picked up that book, I'm like, I know, do what you love and the money will follow, blah, 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 right? Like that's not going to happen for me. Cinderella, blah, blah, blah. In that book, he quotes Nietzsche as saying, art is the proper task of life.
Mm.
Then the author says, most of you will think this has nothing to do with you, but this book will insist throughout that unless you adopt an artist mentality, you won't be able to create the art, the life of your dreams.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't saying you had to learn how to paint, but he was saying you have to look at things objectively. You have to be able to take a step back and be like, is that really what I want? Is that story true for me? Is that fear really something I need to be afraid of? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was immediately sold, like clearly life is much more like a blank canvas and a multiple choice test. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I've been selling books door to door, like, oh, anyway. And then where does one freaking go to develop this artist mentality? Because like in college, I thought I could maybe take the mixed media course.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't involve drawing, right? Because the art teacher told me I couldn't draw. So, but to take that, you had to take drawing 101, 102, painting 101, 102. And I'm like, well, I can't do that. So didn't do that. In Charleston, South Carolina, you know, this is before internet or anything. I called up the art center, like got my courage up. And the woman's like, oh, well, the next registration deadline's in 13 weeks. 13 weeks. Like, I'm not even going to be living in this state in 13 weeks. So, in my experience, it felt very difficult to even make art, to get into a class, let alone develop an artist mentality that would guide your life. So, literally, in that moment, I still have the book, the notes, like open a kids' art center, because I'm thinking, well, if I'm teaching kids, I don't have to know how to draw, right? And then I wrote down the Creative Fitness Center, and it was like, that was the idea. So I went off, I did sell books another summer and I made a ton of money. I sold tons of books. I did it from a right brain perspective, right? I was like, I knew I was going to open this art center. I knew I was going to make the money and just everything flowed. Like that's a whole story in and of itself. And so I came back, I bought this house that was literally 13 people on welfare living in it. It was the bad house in the neighborhood. Renovated it at night till my fingers were swollen, opened the doors, still had never painted on a canvas. Like, I think it's just because selling books door to door is just way scarier than anything. So, so I learned how to paint and draw at my art center. Teachers showed up. Everyone asked when they walked in, when do your classes start? And I'm like, I'll have the schedule in 2.5 weeks at the grand opening. I just thought people were going to come in and I was going to like give them supplies and they were just going to, just like you go to the gym, you know, you do bicep curls. You're not trying to like be Arnold Schwarzenegger or something. You're just working out your biceps. Anyway. And so I took my own classes, you know, like other people were teaching, freaked people out because I really knew nothing. And they assumed since I owned an art center that I like knew what things, you know, opposite colors and all that. And I had no clue. And I experienced along with my clients how life changes and transforms when you let go of like, I'm not good at this, I can't do that. And you just try and create. And one thing leads to another. And all of a sudden you're doing things in your life that before you'd be like, either get, you know, analysis paralysis or, you know, distracted or procrastinated. People started making very real changes, big and small, in their lives because of art class.
Wow.
And we were all just like, whoa, like, holy smokes. And we're all learning together, you know?
That's amazing.
So this creative frequency is pretty fun. It can meet you where you are and then guide you to where you want to be. And your work is in accepting the role, the responsibility as the creator of your reality. And that journey is super fun and bottomlessly rewarding. And I think why we're all here. We're here to die saying, I can't even draw a straight line. Like it's got nothing to do with drawing a straight line, but we have to own how powerfully we create.
Mhm.
That's all I have to say.
That's all.
Like,
That's amazing. I
you're not
totally agree with you.
by now, then it's all good.
Well, what I hear in your story is that you allowed yourself to be resourced. You
Mhm.
were open to resources coming to you, even though you hit a wall. You were willing to let it come in however, spirit wanted to bring it to you next. And you were fearless in like putting yourself in those uncomfortable positions where you could look like you know what you're doing when you should. Like, it took a lot of courage too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the courage comes, courage is about following your heart. And when your heart knows, like it knows that you're in the right place, doing the right thing, it's amazing what courage will find you. And that's, 30 Days to Unstoppable. Like the book was already written when someone pointed out, like, Whitney, you were unstoppable way back when. And, when you're in it, you don't see it. I mean,
Mhm.
it was also, trying to figure out where the money was going to come from and, all the things. It's not like it was fairy tale all the time.
Mhm.
But becoming unstoppable is understanding that there is a co-creative relationship that you're in, should you choose to accept it.
Mhm.
That these inspirations need humans on the ground to bring them from energy to matter.
Mhm.
And that's what your dreams and visions are. They're
Mhm.
not just up to you. I love the analogy of planting a seed in your garden, right? Say you want to, I always use a tomato. Let's say a Gerber daisy. Okay. Say you want Gerber daisies in your garden. You get a package of seeds, right? That are Gerber daisy seeds. Those seeds have everything they need inside of them, a blueprint that will ensure that they grow into a Gerber daisy and not, a zucchini plant.
Mhm.
And it's not going to do anything sitting in the envelope on your windowsill.
Mhm.
It needs you to open up the envelope, first present moment step, right? Go out into the yard, clear some dirt, weed it, add maybe some nutrients if you're, advanced that way. Plant it in the ground, water it, make sure it gets light, right? Like those seeds need you to grow, but they don't need you there every day being like, okay, stay down there 2 more days and then you can start popping up. Like you have an urge like to break through that little shell, like do it, come on up this way, follow my voice. You don't have to do that.
Mhm.
So that's just like these dreams you have, whether it's to go to Tahiti, buy a house, write a book, start a new business, expand your business, shrink your business, whatever it is. What if that is a dream that's being given to you just like a seed?
Mhm.
It just needs you to help bring it into this physical reality. It
Mhm.
doesn't need you to do everything. So you can like relax a little bit. Okay. The seed knows what to do. I just need to help create a channel through which it can find its place into the dirt and then have an environment within which it can grow.
Mhm.
So when you enter into that relationship with your business, with your raising your children, with whatever it is, that's when you expand dramatically into new experiences and ways of creating in life and handling life and thriving in life that you would never ever discover pursuing that linear logical path.
Mhm.
That path has its own, treasures to pick up along the way, but
Yeah.
it's not the only path. Like it's like
Mhm.
a one-lane country road as opposed to a multi-lane, not that we want more highways. Maybe it's just a beautiful country road as opposed to, well, use your own road analogy.
I mean, there are like some logical processes, certainly when you're running your business, there are things that you do, but it's like you don't have to control every component, every detail. You leave room for spirit to like work its way through the situation, and you can do your part. Like you're talking about the process of planting a seed, there are steps that we know work for planting something, right? Like you're not going to put that seed on your windowsill, right, and expect it to grow. But you don't have to make it hard, like you're saying. Like you don't have to check on it every day. You don't have to tell the sun to shine, or, like you have to tell the water to be wet. I don't know,
Right.
but you can actually, go just see what happens. It's funny, like I grew a zucchini plant, and I didn't see it was like this small, and then 4 days later it was this big. And I just blew, it was like this big. It just blew my mind. I'm like, how is that even possible? And I didn't like monitor it and hadn't watered it, like Earth knows what to do, like it's kind of amazing. And I think our businesses can be like that as well. Like, it's not to say that you don't, do your part and, watch your analytics and, you know what I mean? Like, see what's working, but it's kind of amazing. Like, we don't have to be so, I don't know, like sometimes we can let go of some things and not freak out about stuff, and know that things are coming together.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. The control, you can't control everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is a balance where you are controlling your controllables, control what you can control.
Yeah.
And then you let the rest, you trust that the rest is going to figure
Mm-hmm.
it out.
And we create so much anxiety when we don't do that, and that messes with our creative flow too. We're not in our genius when we're in anxiety. And that's where, like, you're talking about meditation, the meditative process of creating something can actually kind of move that out of the way and get you back into that trust.
Absolutely. A couple of my mantras, my unsexy mantras are, like the world's going to keep on spinning if I don't get my Freya Friday email out, or, whatever. And pretty sure I'll die with a to-do list. So it's like, okay, whatever,
Yeah, it
it's
was a
great
good one.
weather and I'm going to go on a hike or swim or paraglide or whatever. Like, that's what I'm going to do because I get to create, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And as an entrepreneur as well, you want to take advantage of the flexibility. We work our tails off, and we're also our own bosses. So make sure you're enjoying that part.
yeah,
It is your life. We need the contrast.
yeah, yeah, totally, totally. Well, kind of just bring it all together. What is one piece of advice that you often find yourself giving people?
Wow. The presence, staying present and asking yourself, what's the very next thing I can do that's in alignment? Because life is overwhelming. Just yesterday because I've been traveling a lot this winter, so I'm having these like intense work, like do all the things in like a third of the time as normal, and then completely out, like doing different things. So it's been this really interesting dance, and the overwhelm is like very near. And the present moment, in 30 Days to Unstoppable, we have the 6 spheres of wellness, and one of them is presence. And when you tap into that field of presence and bring your life into just this very moment, and when you think about, okay, what do I need to do? You've got something coming up, or a launch or whatever. What can I do right now? Very next thing. And sometimes I kind of play with myself as far as like, okay, well, I got to write those email sequences. Like, no, first thing is just walk over to the computer. Next thing is just open up the computer. Next thing is, open up to a random book page and get some inspiration or something. Like, what is the very next thing? Because I guarantee you all, the very next thing that you're meant to do that's in alignment with your highest path as an entrepreneur is going to be super easy. And if you just keep doing that, just one present moment at a time, the goal, where you're headed, where the trail ends, but you get there one step at a time. And that can help you manage. Like, sometimes even probably, I think I did this morning. I brushed my teeth. I'm like, all I have to do right now is brush my teeth. That's it. Nothing else on the to-do list. I'm like, so good. All I'm doing is brush my teeth. Just bring yourself present. And what's the next thing? Same, right? That's how I get so much done. Spent time thinking about all the things that I get to do. It would start short circuiting or something.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. When you're running a business at your level, I'm sure that there are quite a lot of things to do. And having team helps for sure, but you still end up doing your leader, you're, probably writing a lot of the content, you're writing courses, you're teaching courses. It's a lot, but like you say, being totally present like makes that much more manageable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I totally relate. I had a day like that today. Spirit kept going. Actually, you think the next thing you're supposed to do is write this email, but the next thing you're supposed to do is sit on the couch and relax and let spirit come in for like 10 minutes and then we'll talk about what's next. And everything got done way faster because I was just in the flow of like what I was being guided to do. And if I like come in with a rigid idea of my day, I don't know if I would have gotten quite as much done, even. It's kind of amazing, like how just like going this moment, that moment, that moment. Love it.
Well, that's something I've read over and over the last couple of years about how, the world is changing rapidly, right? Like the timeline has
Mhm.
accelerated. Like it's not an
Mhm.
illusion that time is flying. It kind of is. And so with that, we can't like spirit for, if you're using that term, spirit
Mhm.
can't give you like, here's what's going to be happening a month from now, 2 months from now, because there's so many factors that can change that all
Mhm.
spirit can do is tell you what to do right now.
Mhm.
That's where we're being called to new levels of trust. Like, okay, I'm going to do this. I don't know exactly where it's headed,
Mhm.
but what's the most right is what feels the most right in this moment.
Mhm.
So that's been super helpful, just understanding that there is this kind of an element that feels like physics to me, that things are moving quick. So it's even more important to nurture that present moment awareness.
Mhm.
Um, has been very supportive.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just it is kind of amazing like how fast things move and how again like everything is perfectly coordinated and we can shift and we can make new decisions and decide I want to be someone slightly different than I thought yesterday and it's perfectly okay. And I had a plan, but it's all right. Like everything will move around to make space for me to be who I'm meant to be today.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I love it. I love it. And my free gift is called Your Magical Creative Awareness. And this is a super fun left brain, right brain course where you get to objectively observe where you tend to get stuck. We all get stuck somewhere. It's like part of the nature of creating and being an entrepreneur. Um, Understand the nature of your stickiness. And then you will end up painting with me a symbol, super simple, that is going to complement and bring into your space an energy that will help you move through those sticky spaces. So it's super fun, very easy, very laid back. And you will learn some like really valuable insights. You'll gain some really valuable insights into the nature of your creative frequency right now and how to expand that and move through those sticky places, with a little more grace and ease. So,
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Sounds like a great time.
yeah, very fun. It's got to be fun. That's the other thing.
Yeah, totally, totally. I love it. I love it. Well, Whitney, this has been such a fun conversation. I really appreciate all your insights and you got me excited about wanting to get back. I don't have a studio anymore, but like get back into making something. So thank you for that.
So welcome. I love it, Theresa. Thank you for creating this container. The entrepreneurial spirit is so vital right now, and we want it thriving. And it has its own unique challenges, and this is such a beautiful way to support each other. So thank
Yeah.
you.
Oh, thank you. I love it. I love it. It's so fun. And grateful for your wisdom, grateful for all that you bring into the world. I know that you're an incredible guide, and I can just feel like all the ripples of change that you make through your work. So thank you for that. It's so amazing. And I want to thank everyone who's here watching. And thank you for what you're doing in the world and for bringing your creative spirit forward and showing up for some of the hard things and pushing through and like just like meeting your edge and giving things a chance to evolve and trusting yourself. I know that it's a daily practice, and I assume that you're doing those things in your own work, and I imagine this conversation will expand some things for you. So appreciate you being here. If you want to stay connected through this event and beyond, there is a Facebook group called Soul Leaders Invisible Visionaries that you can join, and let us know your ahas. Let us know what you're loving about this conversation. Would love to hear from you. So thank you for being here. It's such a pleasure to have you all here. I hope you have an absolutely gorgeous rest of your day.